Breaking news in Long Beach. That's where we pick up this pursuit. Skyfox overhead. We're looking at westbound Anaheim going towards San Pedro. And the initial call was that there was a stolen Subaru Forester, first spotted by the LAPD Wilshire Division. They gave chase, and that's where we pick it up right now. We're going to go to Dennis Zine, our police specialist. And Dennis, what are you seeing right now? What do you perceive this to be?
Well, this is obviously a high-speed pursuit, and individuals driving in a very careless, reckless manner. And wouldn't surprise me if he T-bones a vehicle as he traverses those intersections. He's passing, as we see, a large truck. He's now continuing at a high rate of speed. He's been doing this for a long period of time. He was slowing down earlier, but he's speeding up. And currently, there's not a lot of traffic on the road he's on, but he's gone through a lot of heavy traffic areas. As you see those intersections he's passing, whether the light is green or red, that's very, very dangerous for cross traffic. They've got air units overhead, they've got ground units. This is the extensive delay in this pursuit. Normally it would come to an end by now. I think at one time they tried to do a pit maneuver, and that didn't work. But he's hit a couple of cars as he's making this move. I understand it might be a stolen vehicle, but the bottom line is it's very reckless, very dangerous, and we're in a populated area with a lot of traffic. And as you can see, the reckless fashion in which he's driving through these intersections. Here we're going to come up, and he's going to be stuck between these trucks, and we'll see what happens at this particular juncture. What he'll do is weasel his way through that, and that's what he's continuing to do. Here we go, and he doesn't have any hesitation on hitting cars along the way because he's hit a number of cars up to this point. So now he's slowing down because of traffic, but I think the speed was up to 80 miles an hour prior to this particular time. There we see I think a sheriff's helicopter overhead. So there's a lot of law enforcement. This person obviously knows he's hot, and this pursuit is continuing, and he's in the Long Beach area. Here we go. Going to make this transition in a populated area now. He comes from populated areas to pretty desolate areas, but you see what he's doing is moving in and out of the traffic as fast as he can. Here he's speeding up again. He was up to 80 miles an hour earlier. So now we're going again at a high rate of speed as traffic clears. So he's going to continue on this pattern, passing these vehicles along the way, and hopefully pit maneuver, but not at this speed. It's too fast for a pit maneuver. Or fortunately, no one's been seriously injured at this time, but it's only a matter of time if he continues at this speed through this type of environment where we've got, now he's going to pass on the shoulder, as we see, very, very dangerous. That's how you get a blowout in your tire. So it's very reckless, very dangerous, and the motoring public who's not aware, he comes upon them on the left. They're shocked when they see this happening. But obviously the people who are watching it on TV, joining us on Fox 11, can see how dangerous it is. Not only dangerous for this individual, but dangerous for the law enforcement officers that are pursuing. I understand it's been with LAPD, Sheriff's Department, and now in the Long Beach area. So he's not slowing down. It's a Forester, a Subaru Forester, which is a very well-built car. This person is not stopping, continuing to violate everywhere he goes. And as you see, he's going to sideswipe some cars as he's traversing these roads.
We're also hearing now he's on the southbound 110 freeway. It looks like he's now making a U-turn there. You're a police specialist. Describe what the strategy is for police right now, because they don't seem to be right behind him. They're certainly giving him some room.
Well, they're giving him some room because of the opportunity that he has that they don't have. They've got to drive in a careful manner. They don't want to jeopardize the public. They've got air units overhead, so the air units will keep track of this as long as it goes. There'll be ground units that are positioned along the way. They'll eventually apprehend this individual, but they're not going to put themselves and the public in danger to see this crazy driving pattern. There goes the sheriff's helicopter overhead. So they've got him under observation, and they'll continue with that until this comes to an end. As you see, he's coming down now, slowing down through the intersection. I can't tell you how many red lights he's going through, but he just has no concern for the motoring public or for safety on the roadway. So he's making a turn to us, probably doesn't know where he's at, and he's just trying to find his way through the maze. But there'll be units that are in the vicinity, units on the area. But again, the air unit overhead is going to continually maintain that observation. When he finally comes to a situation where he gets involved in a collision, because I don't see this individual stopping voluntarily, then they'll apprehend him. But the units are not going to jeopardize the public by driving in a careless fashion. Now he's being stopped.
It
looks like the left side of his car, it looks like he's...
It looks impaired in some way.
Yeah, it looks like part of the bumper is maybe hanging off of that. You talked about the pit maneuver earlier. Obviously, he's got to be going a lot slower than that. Can they do anything, spike strips or something like that, to try to slow him down?
They could. That's a possibility, but they've got to position themselves ahead of the pursuit. And knowing where he's at now, it looks like he's in a storage area where they've got the cargo that comes in through Long Beach. Obviously, an area that doesn't have a lot of traffic other than the cargo. I don't think this person knows exactly where they are. They're struggling.
Hey, Dennis,
Yes.
he's obviously in an industrial section here of Wilmington. This is all in the South Bay area of Southern California.
Right.
Let's talk about the fact that this was an initial call of a stolen vehicle. How dangerous would you consider the situation to be, given that this is theoretically a stolen vehicle?
Well, if it is a stolen vehicle, did the individual steal at gunpoint? Did the individual steal it from a car dealer? There's no telling, but obviously it's a felony if it's a stolen car. But it's always compounded by the situations taking place with the hit and runs and the other situation that this individual has caused to the motoring public. So if it was a stolen car and it started with a stolen car, it's complicated now, and it's really gotten much more serious than just a stolen vehicle. And as you see, this individual is in an area that is restricted to the public. The public can't be in this area, and he may find himself in an awkward position as we see the chopper again, the sheriff's air unit overhead.
Yeah, Dennis.
He doesn't know where he's going.
Well, when you start getting into these ports, too, as you just mentioned, we know that law enforcement carefully monitors them. So he might find himself surrounded and with a disabled car, it appears, from what we're able to see.
It looks like he is really stuck in this location here. It's not often you see somebody get stuck in an area like this. Normally they just stay on the freeways and the side streets.
He took the wrong turn, and he's now with a cargo where the containers are, which is restricted from the public, and he's like in a maze trying to find his way out. But he's just desperate to try and elude the officers. He's not going to elude them, again, with the helicopter overhead, and obviously he's caused a lot of damage to that particular car, as well as the other cars that he has sideswiped along the way.
So does this make it easier for police to block off the entrances and exits here? It now looks like he's coming real close to the end of the road there.
Yeah, he is, but see, he'll keep on moving around, trying to find an escape. But what they will do is they'll lock that place down where he won't be able to get back on the public roadway. At least at this particular juncture, he's not jeopardizing the motoring public.
I got to say, he's doing some maneuvering, though, as we're continuing to watch this live. We want to remind everybody at home, this is an extended edition of Fox 11 at 5. As we continue to watch this pursuit, we believe that this is a stolen vehicle. We picked it up initially in Carson, then to Long Beach, then was heading back up north on the 110, now in Wilmington in the South Bay area here in Southern California. And as we've been reporting, along with Dennis Zine, this area could be somewhat restricted because you are in the port area, and there tends to be a higher enforcement, law enforcement that peruses that area on a regular basis. Dennis, take us and tell us what you see now.
He knows, obviously, he doesn't know where he's going. He's doing circles trying to find his way out. It's like in a maze, and he has no idea what he's doing. He's obviously frustrated. He's not going to be able to get out. I think they're probably going to be blocking the entrance and the exits. So he may just decide to surrender or continue on this particular path of trying to elude the officers. I don't know how he's going to elude them in this particular area because it's all, you can lock this down. He's not going to be able to escape that area. So I'm sure the units are converging in that particular facility. Again, you've got air units overhead, you got the Sheriff's Department overhead, you got Long Beach, you got the Harbor Police. There's a lot of agencies, and that's a restricted area, and there's cargo in there, and obviously it's not open to the general public. So this individual is violating numerous laws, jeopardizing a lot of people, and he'll continue on this until he either runs out of gas or collides with someone, or hopefully he'll surrender. I don't see him surrendering, though, with the way he's driving, but you can tell he doesn't know how to get out. He's continuing to do circles and trying to maneuver himself out of that.
He's like a rat in a maze and he can't get out, Dennis. The good news is that there doesn't seem to be anybody in that area, so nobody's really in danger.
They do have crews working down there, but there are crews that are assigned to the port that are assigned there, but it's not open to the general public, and this is obviously unusual. I'm sure they've notified the Harbor Police. They've got law enforcement in that area that's assigned to maintain the cargo, maintain the safety of that area. So it's a dangerous area where he's now traversing, but he doesn't know. As you see, he's going in circles, has no idea how to get out. It's kind of like, caught in a maze. And he put himself into that maze, and hopefully he will come to the realization that he's not going to escape, and he'll turn the car off and surrender and go to jail, and the criminal justice system will take over that. But at this particular time, he's just like a cat and a mouse going back and forth, not finding an escape route. And there is no escape route. There's one way in, one way out. So he's going to be stuck until he decides what he wants to do. But what he's doing now is basically going back and forth, in and out. There's an entrance, there's an exit, and he's caught in the middle. And if the officers deployed properly, they will have blocked that entrance and that exit, so he can't escape through there and get back on the public roadway. At least in this area, he's not jeopardizing the motoring public and the public that are on the sidewalks in the community.
It's hard to tell if there's more than one person in the car. The driver, how does that impact what police will do, assuming that they eventually get the upper hand on this?
Well, they want to make sure that the person taken into custody, they don't want to harm the individual. They obviously have violations of law with stolen vehicle pursuit, reckless driving, etc. They want to take the person into custody in a lawful manner. This person decides if they want to resist or not, if they want to, if they have a weapon. So the officers have to be concerned about their safety and the general public. But at least at this particular location, the general public is not in jeopardy since he's away from the general public. He's not going to be able to sideswipe cars. And as you can see, what we have is the port area where the containers are stored. They come in off the ships, and they're docked there. So he's in that area, which is a restricted area. He's not supposed to be. The general public's not permitted in there. And he's just wandering around trying to find out what he's going to do next. So he's definitely lost. He has no idea where he is or how he's going to get out.
Well, there's a chance, I guess, that he could run out of fuel.
Well, he could run out of fuel, and that happens very, very seldom that they run out of fuel. But with the helicopter overhead and the units that can converge upon there, obviously the helicopter's broadcasting his location, the status of the situation. So they'll have a number of units that will be converging upon that, and they'll continue to monitor this situation until it comes to a conclusion. But he obviously is totally unaware. He doesn't work for that particular company or in the harbor area. Otherwise, he'd know there's an individual. He saw a worker in that vest. So there are some individuals that are working there. They're currently deployed in that area, and those are workers that are assigned to the port. So there's some jeopardy to them, but I'm sure they're going to get out of the way. But you don't have a lot of cross traffic. You don't have cars. What you have is basically the cargo containers that are stacked there, and then the trucks come in and haul them around the country. But this is like going a merry-go-round. He just continually circled, trying to find a way out, burning up gas, and maybe he'll run out of gas, as you say. But seldom does that ever happen. Most of the time, they will continue to pursue. They're not going to do a pit maneuver in this area. They may do a spike strip, but they're not going to do a pit maneuver in this particular location. As you see, there's no units that are following him, but they got the units, the helicopter overhead, and there's units that are, I'm sure, at the entrance and the exits, and they're just standing by to see when this comes to an end, because there's no purpose in following him in there, and he's not going to stop. They already know he's not going to stop because of what he's already done when he was traveling through the streets of Long Beach, Wilmington, and other areas.
Dennis, I'm just looking up where he is. You see the letters WBCT. That stands for the West Basin Container Terminal, and that's on John S. Gibson Boulevard there in San Pedro. And this is a transportation service in Los Angeles. It's obviously a container terminal, but that's what the WBCT stands for, as he continues along there.
And if you travel down the Harbor Freeway, you'll come upon this where they have this area where the containers come in on those large ships from across the ocean, and they dock there, they unload those containers, and then they're shipped out by rail, by truck. They got the Alameda Corridor that transports that cargo out. So there's really no jeopardy in that particular area to the general public. Again, you have some workers down there. You don't have any cars that are traveling around. As we saw earlier, he was colliding with cars, sideswiping cars. So he was in a very dangerous fashion for the general public. Here he is isolated, which then affords the public safety. As far as what he's doing, as you see, he keeps on going back and forth, trying to find his way out, and obviously he's not being very successful with it. So the danger to the public is negligible in this particular area. Other than the workers, I'm sure the workers are aware of what's going on. They don't see cars traveling around there. What they find is the cargo ships come in. They have some vehicles that are...
He's getting out. He's getting out. He's on
There we go. Yeah. Okay, now the car, he didn't stop the car, so the car's going to go.
He's climbing up some kind of a structure there. Here comes the black and white.
He's going up into the rigs. Now the units are right behind him, so there'll be, there's LAPD. So he's climbing up the rig.
We'll see how good a shape he is then, because this isn't easy.
Well, he's definitely taking those stairs, but again, you got an air unit overhead. It doesn't look like he's got any weapons in his hand. He's just climbing up. I don't know where he plans to go because there's no way to get out of there. He's just putting himself in a more awkward position. And what they'll do is they'll converge the ground units in that area, and they can contain him in that area. And whatever they use to capture him, they will utilize. But he's put himself in a real awkward position now. But the car, I don't know where the car went, but he didn't stop the car.
Right,
Right.
just kept driving forward.
There was no emergency brake on. Now, which agency do you think this is?
LAPD.
You do think?
It's
Okay.
the Harbor Police LAPD. The first unit on the scene was LAPD.
Okay.
They did have a sheriff's unit overhead. I'm sure they'll bring in the Harbor units from Harbor Division that will be converging upon this area. And you just see what he's doing. I don't think he works here. I don't think he knows what he's doing. If he did, he would have done this a lot earlier. But he's going high ground, and high ground doesn't give him an opportunity to escape. So maybe he's got some issues that he's dealing with. And obviously his issues are going to be more intense. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to develop a tactical plan. They got all the time on their side now because there's no more danger to the public. Again, he's in an isolated area. This could take hours for him to
that's what I was just thinking, Dennis. This could be potentially a very lengthy standoff if he just decides to camp out there for hours.
Exactly. But again, there's no more danger to the general public. He's not going to be sideswiping anyone, not going to hit anyone. So they will take him into custody eventually, but they will surround this area. They'll bring in the SWAT team if that's necessary. They got the ground units. They got air units. He's not going to be able to go anywhere. I mean, he's got himself in quite a trap where he decided to. He may have been better jumping in the water, but I don't know if he can swim or not.
Well, they eventually.
At this point, really, the LAPD has the complete upper hand because he's in an area where he can't get out. Now he's walked up this structure.
You see the ground, right? You see the ground units. So they'll surround this facility. There's some motor officers, motorcycle officers. You'll have a number of units that will converge upon this facility, and they know where he's at. He's not going to be able to jump out of there, so he can go in one of the lockers up in that area. He can go into the container room, but he's not going to be able to get. He's really put himself in a position of disadvantage. The officers are now in a position of advantage, and they have time on their side. So they can take as long as they need in order to take him into custody. So this is going to be a standoff now. I don't see him surrendering in a timely manner, but fortunately, there's no more pursuit. The car hopefully came to a stop in a safe manner, and this will go on maybe for hours. They'll bring the negotiating team. They'll bring in all kinds of resources to try and bring him into custody, but it's going to be a long time according to what he has done so far. He doesn't want to surrender and go to jail.
They're not going to force the issue and try to go grab him. They'll just let time elapse and just wait it out. Right? Yeah.
They're not going to be climbing those stairs, and if he has a weapon, they're not going to expose themselves to that danger. And he's not going to jump off. He's not going to jump off of there. You just saw the LAPD helicopter fly by. So again, they got a lot of resources. Harbor Division. They'll probably bring in a Metro team. The harbor has the police, the port police. So there's a number of resources available, and what they'll do is convert on that location. You'll probably see a lot more black and white showing up, and a supervisor will take command, and they'll lock down the facility to make sure that he won't escape. If he wants to jump in the water, I don't think there's a vantage point at that particular location for him to jump in the water.
What's the strategy of the negotiator to try to get him down? They're obviously schooled in that kind of thing.
Right, but obviously he's resistant to being taken into custody. That's why we saw the pursuit. But again, on the good side of this, there's no more jeopardy to the public. There's no more high-speed pursuit. There's no more side-swiping cars. There's no more danger of going through those intersections against red lights. So as far as that aspect of safety to the public, that is successful. But as far as taking him into custody, it's one individual, and you've got basically an army of law enforcement that will be deployed there to take that into custody. So it's just a matter of time. This could be 10 minutes. It could be 10 hours. It depends on how he wants to handle it.
He's just about as isolated and trapped as a suspect could be. At this point, though, when we talk about the backstory on these stories, often we find out that someone has already been arrested for some previous offense. So they steal a car, and then we start to get an idea of what, at least in their mind, was the impetus for the chase in the first place. What most often do you find in your years of law enforcement? What have you found?
Well, it's normally not the first offense. Normally they've been through the system before. They've been through jail. They've been to state prison. And they realize, what's the big deal? I'm going to steal a car. I'm going to go and commit a robbery, and I'll probably get away with it. And sometimes they do. And then unfortunately, in this particular situation, they caught up with this individual, and he tried to flee. He did flee. Now he's put himself in this particular position. No one put him in this position except himself. So they have, again, advantage on their side. They have time on their side. Units are deployed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as long as it takes. But they'll bring in a negotiating team. They'll bring in SWAT team. They'll bring in whatever resources they need to secure this area.
Dennis, we're learning that he's now in the building. It's hard to see from this vantage point, but we're learning that he's either found an open door, kicked in a door or window or some sort, and gotten into the building. How does that change the dynamics of this situation, assuming he's in the... Oh, wait a minute. Maybe not. Is that him?
There he is. No, he's on the stairwell. Yeah, he's up there. There's no building around there.
Okay.
So he's really trapped himself.
Sorry about that. I thought he was in that white building to the right.
Well, you could duck in and you could duck out. He seems to be quite agile. You know, we never know if they're under the influence of something. Often they're people who have taken drugs, or sometimes they've been drinking. The adrenaline rush of possibly stealing a vehicle and then leading police on a pursuit, all of that kind of factors into his mental capacity and his state of mind.
Exactly. But does he have a weapon? There's no telling. He may have a weapon, and they're going to be cautious about that. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But he's fishing around, and he has no idea what he's doing up there. He got in this position. If you remember, he was doing circles trying to find a way out. Then he finally stopped the car and got out and climbed up, and now he's trapped. I mean, he put himself in a position of disadvantage where the officers have the advantage because they know where he's at. He's isolated. And as you see where he's at, is he going to jump in the water from there? Maybe
well, that
he
looks
will.
pretty high.
But it does. But it's a foolish move if he does. Maybe he's going to walk the plank and jump in the water. If he does, you know, we'll see what happens at that point if he decides to make that move. But there's really nothing around there for him to capture. I mean, he's out on the edge of the pier. That's it. There's nothing else they can do.
Well, for somebody trying to evade authorities, he hasn't made great decisions today. He has literally put himself behind the 8-ball.
Yeah, he has. If you want to find yourself to escape, you don't want to go to a place that's so isolated as you see in this. Maybe he's an excellent swimmer. Maybe he wants to swim to shore. But if he does, they'll be there. The harbor police, you'll probably see a boat show up shortly where the harbor police patrol that. They've got watercraft that they'll come in. And now he's sitting down. Now he's going to take a rest. So he's going to play cat and mouse with them. Meanwhile, they have the time to deploy their resources to get people in place. Again, the air unit overhead is going to keep constant vigilance of the situation. They're not going to back away. They're not going to just say, well, the pursuit stopped. We're going to let him, mind his own business. They're going to sit here and they'll continue this until they take him into custody, as long as it takes.
And when we talk about the harbor police, it sounds like it could be recreational, but I've actually ridden with them. This is considered a very important area here in Southern California, one of the busiest ports in the entire country. So we take our law enforcement very serious in this part of SoCal. What exactly do you think is going on between the coordination of these various units?
Well, the Harbor Police works with LAPD, so the Long Beach Police, they have the units out there. They work in coordination with each other, and I've worked with them in the past. They have a very professional agency. They know the area down there. They know the cargo. It's very sensitive cargo. It's very sensitive security. It's like when you go to the airport. You got massive security at the airport. They've got that here at the port. So there's a lot of cargo that goes through there. There's a lot of security, but they have a very professional Harbor Police, and it's part of the city of Los Angeles. It's run by the Harbor Department. Long Beach Police also works in cooperation. What you find in Los Angeles in this region is the sheriffs work with LAPD and the Highway Patrol. Everybody works together. They're all there for the same goal. So you're going to find the cooperation between the Harbor Police. They're down there, and there's Harbor Division of LAPD. There's a great cooperation between those agencies, and they'll be working in cooperation with this. But I'm surprised we don't see a boat out there where the Harbor Police is brought in one of their vessels.
Oh boy, look at that. And he is very dangerously on the edge there. It doesn't look like there's any railings. Dennis, as I watch this, I'm also wondering if maybe this single individual has maybe hurt the shipping business, at least for a little while. If they let this guy stay up there for hours and hours, might there be a concern about the business being affected?
Well, they will stop the containers. There's ships that are coming in constantly, and they're unloading those containers, and that's what the Port Authority is responsible for. So if they put a halt on that at this particular location, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's a very busy port. There's a lot of containers that come in, a lot of ships that come in between Long Beach and Los Angeles. A tremendous amount of cargo comes in and gets just shipped out around the country. So they will do what they need to do to hold those containers while they're dealing with this situation. Again, this is just one of the many facilities they have on the port. This is not the only one where they can bring in containers. There's many of those devices, and there's many of those areas where they bring in, and you can see they're large structures, and they clamp onto those containers, they bring them on shore, and then they put them on trucks. But this is just one of the many, and he's obviously contained. He's not going to be able to get down from there without the authorities capturing him. Again, you saw the sheriff's helicopter overhead, so you got LAPD, and you got sheriffs, and you got the ground units between the LAPD, the Long Beach, the harbor. There's plenty of resources to take this one individual into custody, and he's just sitting down, and he's relaxing while the law enforcement authorities are getting their plan developed on what they're going to do. Meanwhile, they got the ground covered, and it's safe and secure at this time. It's called, as far as the pursuit's a code 4, and now it's just apprehension of the suspect when he decides to either surrender or they will deploy what resources are necessary to bring him into custody.
Well, when we're watching him, his body language has been kind of interesting, sort of casually walking, at one point kind of hunched over. I'm sure it's hot out there. I think he just waved to somebody, so kind of an interesting take when we look at what he seems to be feeling like at this hour.
Well, whatever he's doing is not helping his particular cause or his case. He doesn't look like he wants to jump in the water, and he's just sitting there basically looking at the water and lying in place. But the officers aren't going to be running up those staircases and taking him to custody. They're going to develop a plan that's for their safety as well as this individual's safety. You get into a grappling situation, someone can go over that railing real simple into the water. So they've got to be very cautious how they deploy to take this individual into custody. And if they use any kind of non-lethal weapon, then he could be pushed into the water with that non-lethal weapon. So there's a lot of consideration that takes place when you want to apprehend someone in this particular situation. It's very unusual to have a situation like this, but it is not, it's happened in the past where people have put themselves in precarious positions and eventually they get taken into custody. So while this is an unusual pursuit, a lot of side swipes, a lot of high-speed driving, and this is how he decided to bring it to an end. But as far as the car, we know that's successfully stopped. As far as him, that's yet to be determined what's going to happen with him.
Dennis, will the charges increase the longer he's out there? Can they continue to add charges? Or?
Well, they're going to have the GTA charge evading. They'll have a number of charges. This could take 5 hours or 10 hours or 24 hours. It's not going to cause any more charges against him. You know, he's not doing anything other than not cooperating. He fled from the car. And if it takes 5 hours or 10 hours, there'll be a lot of resources that are deployed, but it doesn't increase the charges. He has a certain number of charges that will be lodged against him, like he's in a restricted area. They'll be charged with that. There'll be charges with the GTA. They'll be charged with the hit and runs. I mean, there'll be a lot of charges filed against him. I'm sure when this is all said and done, he'll get some state prison time. Sure. And he may have already been to prison in the past. So normally, if an individual who does this is not the first time that they've engaged in this type of activity.
He's acting very strange,
yes.
Waving his hands,
it's
rubbing his hands.
It's very erratic what he's doing out there. So at this point...
He's bizarre. But I think, we could sit here and watch this for the next 10 hours, and I think that what we're going to find is
Port Authority all there in pursuit of this man. But the good news is that he's not by anybody. He can't hurt motorists or pedestrians. So he is isolated at this point, actually surrounded by the water there, which is the best case scenario for law enforcement, correct?
Exactly. I mean, it's in a situation where he's in jeopardy. If he decides to jump, that's his choice. The officers are going to be deployed properly, but the general public, again, there's no harm or possible harm to the general public. What he is doing is just holding off on the police. They're developing their plan, which I'm sure they've already developed. They're going to be deploying, and this will take as long as it takes. Nighttime's going to be here pretty soon. They'll have the searchlights on him. They'll get him into custody eventually, but this may not be until the 10 o'clock news. But right now, I think it's just
well, and he's in that tank top. Maybe he'll start to get cold and hungry up there, and he'll just figure it's time to come down. He can't do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's a total standoff. But again, they're not going to get in the police cars and drive away. They're going to sit here and they'll develop that plan and they'll deploy. But he's in an awkward position. See, if they get in a situation where it becomes combative, he could throw an officer off, or he could be thrown off. They don't want to harm this individual. They want to take him into custody in a peaceful manner, and that's his choice if he wants to resist or not. But he's in a very awkward position, a dangerous position, and if you want to take an individual into custody, that is not a real safe area where you're trying to take someone into custody who's uncooperative. So
yes, he has very few options, Dennis, right? So the best thing right now for law enforcement is just to wait him out.
They're going to wait him out. They're going to develop the plan. They're going to secure the area. I'm sure they're going to have boats down there just in case. But there's a supervisor who's in charge who's going to develop a tactical plan. They'll deploy that tactical plan. But again, timing, there's the boat. You see the boat out there?
Yes.
Okay, there's the boat. I said a boat would show up. That's the harbor division of the harbor police.
So they'll stay far enough away to where it's safe, but they'll just monitor it from that location.
Yeah, so if he falls in the water, they'll be able to capture him. So they were deployed, and that's just part of the deployment of the tactical situation that they bring around to apprehend this individual. So that boat will stay out there, and there's the sheriff's helicopter that just passed again. So they will monitor this until he's taken into custody. And again, as long as it takes, so the resources it takes, that's what it's going to be. So I would say that people can tune into the 10 o'clock news and we'll see what the result is back then.
Well, and this is really expensive, isn't it, Dennis? I mean, you've got the Harbor Patrol out there, you've got numerous agencies with police cars, a helicopter.
Everything. It's very expensive. One individual who, he has the right to be viewed innocent till guilty, and officers will do this in a very professional manner. They don't want to harm the individual. They want to do it in a professional, safe manner for him as well as themselves. And some people say, well, just throw him off into the water. It doesn't work that way. They don't want to do that. They want to do it so he's safe. He'll go to jail. He'll go to court. The criminal justice system will take over. But the officers are very professional. They've been trained to handle these situations. Again, this is not the first time this has happened. But he's got a variety of charges that are going to be filed against him. And again, time is on the side of law enforcement. They've got the boat out there, which I predicted they'd have. The tactical plans being developed. So by the time we come back to the 10 o'clock news, hopefully he'll be taken into custody. And that'll be what we say a code 4, suspect in custody.
Well, Dennis, you've been around the block before. Can you ever recall having a chase end up in one of the ports here in Southern California where somebody actually jumped on a crane who was a suspect?
Well, there's a neighboring station, Channel 5, where the tower in front, where an individual was perched on that tower. There's been situations where people have done these crazy things, and they finally get taken into custody. But Fox 11, you don't have any towers to worry about. But in this particular case, fortunately, you don't have any towers to worry about. But what happened in this particular case is he's down in Wilmington, and he's fishing around trying to find an escape route. He didn't find the escape route. He jumped out of the car and let the car go, and there he is. So he has no idea where he is or what he's doing, other than he's just doing it. So this was not planned. This was totally by opportunity. And he ended up there thinking that he might jump out. I'm going to climb up. Well, what am I doing when I climb up? He didn't think about the consequences. Now he's up there. What's he supposed to do?
Well, the plan went awry, we believe, because he went from Carson, he went to Long Beach, then San Pedro, and now ending up in Wilmington. They're in the port area here in Southern California. So you got to believe that the guy at one point said, I made a lot of bad decisions, so I'm just going to make a run for it on foot. And that's where we see him at this hour, basically trapped by law enforcement who are in pursuit of him. We believe that the initial call was a stolen vehicle, and the LAPD called in that vehicle, and here we are.
It'd be nice to know what happened to that car, because I know when he got out of that car, it was still running. And that car may have gone in the water. I don't know. But we may want to follow up and see what happened with the car that he jumped out of and then ran up into this tower, this crane. So that's another question, is what happened to the car.
Dennis, thank you so much. We're going to leave this pursuit here for the moment.